China's moment of triumph, the one they had been planning for decades, just turned into a strategic nightmare. Imagine this. You've just spent over $12 billion building the most advanced warship in your nation's history. This isn't just any ship, it's the Fujian, a massive supercarrier with high-tech electromagnetic catapults, the same kind of tech the U.S. Navy uses on its newest carriers. You sail it out for its first major sea trials, about 60 miles off your own heavily fortified Yulin naval base on Hainan Island. Your new 5th-generation J-35 stealth fighters roar to life, launching off the deck. Your new KJ-600 early warning aircraft, the eyes and ears of the fleet, follow suit. Propaganda reels are spinning, showing the world that you've finally arrived as a true blue-water naval power. This was meant to be China's checkmate, a symbol that they could finally challenge the United States for control of the seas. But then America answered, and their response was so quiet, so simple, and so brutally effective it completely overshadowed China's big day. The United States sent a message that Beijing could not ignore. On September 23rd, the USS Ohio, an American ghost sub, silently surfaced at Subic Bay in the Philippines. As Captain James Fannell, a retired U.S. Navy intelligence officer, put it, "Submarines will reign in a war with China," underscoring how this quiet arrival amplified the undersea edge. Now, you have to understand, for a submarine like this, whose entire purpose is to be invisible, surfacing in a public port is a deliberate act of theater. It was a calculated move to show China that the U.S. can choose when to reveal its presence, proof of complete control in the situation. And here's the kicker. This wasn't the real humiliation yet. The best part is coming up, because this one submarine carries a secret that makes China's brand new supercarrier look almost helpless. So what makes this one submarine so special? Let me tell you, the USS Ohio is not your average submarine. This is one of 4 Ohio-class guided missile submarines, or SSGNs, in the U.S. Navy. These were once ballistic missile subs designed to carry nuclear weapons as part of America's doomsday deterrent. But after the Cold War, the Navy converted them into something arguably even more useful for today's conflicts. Instead of nuclear missiles, the USS Ohio now carries an incredible 154 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. Let that number sink in for a moment. 154. Each of those missiles can fly over 1,000 miles with pinpoint accuracy to strike a target on land. To put that in perspective, the Fujian's entire air wing, with all its new stealth fighters, would struggle to deliver that much precision firepower in a single massive operation. The USS Ohio can do it all by itself from underwater, without anyone even knowing it's there until the missiles are already on their way. By surfacing at Subic Bay, right in China's backyard, the U.S. Navy was sending a crystal-clear message. It was saying, we can get our most powerful assets right up to your doorstep, inside the so-called First Island chain that you've spent decades trying to fortify. We can slip past all of your defenses, hold your most valuable assets at risk, and then disappear without a trace. The fact that they made the Ohio visible was a power move, a way of highlighting the permanent threat of its invisibility. It was a quiet way of saying, your shiny new $12 billion carrier is impressive, but it's still just a target. Chinese military planners know that the U.S. fleet of nuclear-powered attack submarines could be a major threat to China's fleet, noted Brian Hart, a China power analyst at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. But as devastating as this single submarine is, it's only one piece of the puzzle. The truth is, the reason this move was so humiliating for Beijing goes much deeper than just 154 cruise missiles. It exposes a fundamental weakness at the heart of China's Navy, a problem so big their own military leaders have admitted they don't know how to solve it. And that problem is so critical it could decide the outcome of the next Pacific War. So why can't China, with all its new ships and advanced technology, deal with a single American submarine? The answer is a massive gaping hole in their military capabilities known as anti-submarine warfare, or ASW. Truth be told, while China has been building an impressive surface fleet of destroyers, frigates, and carriers, their ability to find and track modern nuclear submarines is generations behind the United States. As one PLA Navy assessment candidly stated in official journals, PLA's deep-water anti-submarine capabilities are weak. For decades, the U.S. and its allies, especially Japan, have littered the seafloor of the Pacific with a network of highly sensitive underwater microphones and sensors. Think of it as a giant undersea surveillance web. This system, along with fleets of P-8 Poseidon patrol aircraft, towed sonar arrays on surveillance ships, and of course, America's own Hunter submarines, creates what military planners call a transparent sea. For American forces, that is. For Chinese submarines, it's a death trap. The most damning evidence comes from China itself. In their own military journals, high-ranking PLA Navy officers have written articles expressing grave fears about this. They've admitted that the probability of their own submarines being detected the moment they leave port is extremely high. They can't even guarantee their most important strategic assets can get out of their own waters without being tracked. U.S. submarines remain the most survivable and effective platforms in a potential conflict with China, emphasized Brian Clark, a senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. This is the real humiliation. The Ohio wasn't just flexing firepower. It was exposing a weakness Beijing knows it cannot fix quickly. While China is trying to build a wall of missiles to keep U.S. carriers out, the U.S. has already built an underwater surveillance barrier that keeps China's Navy penned in. The Fujian might be designed to project power across the Pacific, but it first has to survive the journey out of its own backyard, a backyard that is swarming with American ghost subs it can't see. And if that wasn't enough of a strategic checkmate, the U.S. decided to remind China of the even bigger threat that stands behind every conventional move it makes. Every move on the global chessboard is backed by something bigger. For the United States, the appearance of the USS Ohio isn't just a conventional threat. It's a message that is underwritten by the most powerful deterrent on Earth, a layered nuclear triad. And in a piece of timing that was almost certainly not a coincidence, the U.S. military made sure that message was heard loud and clear. In the very same week China was showing off the Fujian, the U.S. Navy carried out a round of successful Trident II nuclear missile test launches. These tests are routine, but the timing sent a powerful signal. Each Trident missile can carry multiple warheads and represents the most survivable leg of America's nuclear forces. The Navy has now conducted 197 successful test flights of this system, a record of reliability that is unmatched. These tests demonstrate the continued reliability of our sea-based deterrent, said Vice Admiral Johnny Wolf, director of the U.S. Navy's Strategic Systems Programs. Earlier in the year, the Air Force did the same with its land-based Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missiles. Together, these tests reinforced a simple, terrifying fact for any potential adversary. Behind every American submarine, carrier, and soldier, there is a fully tested and ready nuclear arsenal. This nuclear shadow tells Beijing that any conflict, even one that starts over a small island, carries an unacceptable risk of escalating into something civilization-ending. It's the ultimate backstop that makes conventional moves like the Ohio's deployment so credible. But deterrence isn't just about the weapons you have today. It's about showing you can build and maintain them for tomorrow. At the same time, halfway across the Pacific, the U.S. is pouring concrete on a project that ensures its undersea dominance for generations. At Pearl Harbor, a massive $3.4 billion project to modernize Dry Dock 5 is underway. This new dry dock is being built specifically to service America's newest and deadliest hunter subs, the Virginia-class. These are the very submarines that China's ASW network can't find. This isn't just a repair job. It's a statement in steel and concrete that America's undersea advantage isn't going anywhere. But the U.S. isn't doing this alone. While America builds the hardware, its allies are building a cage. A ghost sub is scary. A ghost sub backed by a nuclear triad is terrifying. But a ghost sub operating inside a ring of allied bases and missile launchers? That's a strategic nightmare. The USS Ohio is never operating alone, and recent moves by America's allies are tightening a complete encirclement around China's Navy, making it harder and harder for ships like the Fujian to operate freely. Let's look north to Japan. In a historic shift, Japan is arming itself with offensive firepower. They've signed contracts to buy up to 400 Tomahawk missiles from the United States, the same kind the USS Ohio carries. These will be placed on their advanced Aegis destroyers. This means that for the first time, Japan has a counter-strike capability able to hit targets deep inside hostile territory. The PLA now has to worry about a massive new threat coming from a direction they always considered purely defensive. This acquisition will significantly enhance our defense posture and contribute to regional stability, stated Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara. Now let's look south to the Philippines. The U.S. and the Philippines have supercharged their alliance, expanding an agreement that gives U.S. forces access to 9 strategic bases in the country. Several of these new sites, like Lalo Airport and Camilo Acias Naval Base, are positioned right at the edge of the Luzon Strait. This is the critical choke point between the South China Sea and the open Pacific, the very gateway the Fujian and the Chinese Navy need to pass through to project power. By placing assets there, the U.S. and its allies can effectively monitor and, if needed, shut down that gateway. When you put it all together, the picture becomes brutally clear. The U.S. isn't just confronting China with its own forces. It's leading a coalition that is building a wall of containment. Japan provides the northern anchor of missile-armed destroyers. The Philippines provides the southern fulcrum of strategic bases. This constrictor strategy means the Fujian isn't just facing the threat of one ghost sub. It's facing a 360-degree threat environment where any move it makes is watched and can be countered. You see, this whole episode comes down to a tale of 2 warships and 2 completely different philosophies of power. China's Fujian, for all its $12 billion glory, represents overt, visible power. It's big, it's impressive on propaganda reels, and it makes headlines. But in modern naval conflict, being visible is a liability. It makes you a target. The USS Ohio represents something else entirely: covert, invisible power. Its strength lies in its ability to be anywhere at any time without being detected. The single photo of it surfaced at Subic Bay was a deliberate communication designed to humiliate China by showing its vulnerabilities. It proved that despite all of China's investments, a single U.S. platform could slip through its defenses and hold its most prized warship hostage. This single photo symbolized a much wider truth. America's invisible arsenal, backed by a modernized nuclear triad and supported by a ring of fortified Allied bases, still completely overshadows Beijing's most celebrated achievements. The Fujian may look powerful, but in reality it is constrained by U.S. submarines and Allied bases that limit its freedom of action. And that leaves one final question for the future. If one ghost submarine can humiliate China's most advanced carrier on day 1, what happens when an entire wolf pack of them is waiting in the Pacific?